live from the Purple Cow Branding Studios.
Network Today. Welcome. We're here to take you from meeting people to
making money
faster. The faster way. The faster way is always the
right
better
on.
way. Yeah, that's right. So I'm Sheryl Powers.
I'm Rob Bliss.
And make sure you connect with us on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
So if you don't know, it's Sheryl with an S. I can't tell you how many people still spell my name wrong. I know. No, well, with a C, it's an S-H-E-R-Y-L. They still do L-Y. I kid you not. Somebody I've known for over a decade said L-Y. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? So anyway, so Sheryl Powers as in Austin and
Rob Bliss. As in happiness is.
That's right. That's right. So because not everybody do we know.
Right.
And a lot of people listen, they don't watch. So they're not seeing anything on the screen. They can only know what to do when we trigger that. So anyway,
there we
go. So that's what I wanted to get that out of the way. And we've got a whole theme for the year. If you've missed that, and it's networking stop.
Stop.
We want to stop networking the way we used to, right?
The old traditional ways, they're gone. They're dead and buried.
They are dead and buried. And the theme of this episode is networking unconditionally.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. One of my favorite topics.
Yep. So without thought to getting to receiving. And I've got two really, really great articles, but one I'm going to talk about first real quick is a gal that I actually met while I was doing research on this. This is how networking works, right?
Wow.
So I'm doing research. And again, if you want to do it yourself, because it's really interesting what comes up, I just go into my little search engine and I put in networking unconditional
right
topics. And up came all of these really cool articles. Now, some were actually like hardwiring your computer type stuff, but you hopefully can figure out when you need to like bypass that. But the first one was with Kathy. I don't even know how to pronounce her last name. Height, I think. It's CATHIHIGHT. And I think I sent you just right before we walked in here the YouTube link.
I saw that.
And she's got about an hour she talks about on this webcast, but she talks about, she opens up the whole networking discussion. It's a webcast and she's down in Austin, which I always love when they're from Texas too, right? But, and she just had a great presentation style, but she's like, see that badge on the picture that says, I hate networking? That's probably the badge you'll see me wearing at networking things. I'm like, yes, I love this girl. So anyway, she really talked about how not to network the way we've always known. It's just old, dead, and tired.
Yeah. And
it's why people get burnt out. So hopefully we'll be able to have her on the show sometime when she's up in the DFW area. But she was really, really good. And you talked about developing relationships and fun things that you can do. So that was Kathy Height. So that was really good.
I watched about half of it, and I can't wait to finish it up tonight.
Oh, you did watch half of it?
Oh, yeah.
How did you get that in?
She was brilliant.
Yes.
She was brilliant.
Yes, she was. So here's something else. Here was another article that came up that I looked at, and it's createcultivate.com. This came up under that subject matter of networking unconditionally.
Okay.
And this is from 2021. You need to get her a new website, by the way. It's a little old looking, but the information was super good. And it talks about networking is giving. So this is createcultivate.com. Createcultivate.com. And she touches on, so the headlines here were start by saying, how can I help? And I thought about you, Rob. So if we want to be an unconditional networker, like we're not giving to receive, isn't that a great opening line?
Oh, no, I love that. Absolutely. It kind of probably people will snap their neck. You're going, what? Because we don't think about it often.
Well, especially if we mean it.
Right. Yes.
Right. So how can I help you? Helping people make introductions. I know that's one of my superpowers is making introductions. So I guess that helps me. It made the list. Offering your time. There's something, again, that you do really, really well. So you're just saying, hey, whatever I need to do. You're pulling the whole staff out to go show up at wherever, middle of a field somewhere. I know. Staying present. So she really talks about how nobody responds the way we imagine they would. So really be the person who does. Stay present and engaged.
Well, there's always the temptation, when you go to a networking group, how you you have these short conversations, you cut off when it's not going your way, and boom, you flip to the next person. So I think that's a very good point right
Yeah.
there.
So, and that's where she ends it. But being in people's lives, following up, being real, thread, right? But it's hard. It's hard to when you have the balance of I've got to make things happen, and I'm working on a volume networking basis to now I need to develop real deep relationships and be natural. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah, it's that whole expression. It's not quality. It's not quantity. It's
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah.
So when you go out there and you meet 1,000 people at all these
Mhm.
networking groups, you got to narrow it down to 100, 150 people so that you can get the quality relationship there.
Yeah. And be the networker that is unconditional.
Yes.
So we have an awesome guest who's going to really help us take a deeper dive on that because I've known this person for a very long time, and he is the unconditional networker.
He's
He
awesome.
truly says he is what he says he is. And because networking can feel so overwhelming, we love to talk about our success stories, which is what we call our Grand Slam. And that's coming up next.
A small business is still a business. At Purple Cow Branding, we want to help you execute your greatest visions for your company. Purple Cow works for small businesses that don't have big budgets to spend on their marketing efforts. Inquire now at purpleCowBranding.com to be the biggest little guy around. Purple Cow Branding, much more than digital marketing.
Hey, time for our Grand Slam.
Man, I got another good one, but you know what? I'm going to let you go first this time.
Okay, I'm up to bat.
You're up to bat. Knock it out of the park,
All right,
Sheryl.
all right. So we've already touched on this, but I just felt so strongly about how all of this came down. And this is the beauty of networking, right? And that was, we talked with Heather Hardaway, right?
Yeah.
And how this stuff comes about. So if you're listening and you're like, man, how do they do these things? How does Rob know all these people and put all these pieces of the puzzle together? How does Sheryl know? Because we work at it.
Mm-hmm.
We work at it. So I met Jerry Hicks of Diamond Blue Air. Golly, it had to have been at least last summer, if not before then. And I met him at a Lacima Club networking event.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said he was the owner of an
Diamond
HVAC
Blue
company, I said, hey, I've got some great other home service professionals that I want to connect you with that would be good referral partners. He'd come in from Atlanta, Georgia to start a business in Dallas, Fort Worth. Crazy. I was so like, what can I do to help you? And so just getting to know him through that process, then he would come to Mid-Market Professionals when he can. He's so busy, like running a company and then trying to keep everybody hired and trucks moving and all of that. And it just so happened, this is why it's important. And back to where I talked about this gal at Create and Cultivate, when she said, asking how you can help. So that's what I asked Jerry just a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Hey, Jerry, how can I help you? Like, what do you need? And he said, you know what I need? I need a new business development person. Well, I'm like, oh my gosh, because it wasn't, I bet an hour before, maybe 30 minutes, maybe we're all in the same room. And I said, I just talked to Heather Hardaway, and I don't know if she's the right person, but she's amazing at what she does. I know there's been some changes in her business, and y'all should chat. And then magic happened. Like, that is so beautiful. That warms my heart. That makes all of this worth it.
That's a win-win. A big win-win.
Yeah, it is.
That is so cool.
All right, yours.
All right. Well, again, mine's another chamber story.
Okay.
And I mean, I've had 2 or 3 recently, but when it's when you work something in networking and you're consistent, that's when the results happen.
Yeah.
And then being committed to something too, and not blowing it off, because we were going to a ribbon cutting. I had one of those busy mornings, and it would have been so easy to just say, "Oh no, it was another ribbon cutting." But no, I said, "No, commitment, got to go there. Chamber activity. I'm going to meet people."
Yeah.
Sheryl, go there. I saw it was for a Speed Queen washateria. Now that doesn't really say a whole lot, but when
That's not sexy.
When I walked in there, I'm looking at this palatial washateria. It's brand new, spanking new. It it was just this new concept of the wash. TVs everywhere. Everything's shiny,
Did you
stainless
say, like,
steel.
scan a thing or QR code
yeah,
or something?
They had QR codes, scan. It was just unbelievable. And I get to meet, corporate was there on the grand opening, and I got to meet the IT guy, head of IT. And he's looking for somebody because they're going to open up about 15 more of these in DFW. So he needs a man. They're out of Wisconsin, but they need, feet on the street here in Dallas, Fort Worth. And boy, I raised my hand. We got a connection. And yes, thank you, ribbon cuttings at the Farmers Branch Chamber of Commerce.
All right, Rob's got your feet. When you need feet in DFW, Rob's got your feet. So that's awesome. I love it. All right, so our amazing guest, Michael Reagan.
And I learned so much from that, Sheryl.
I know, talking about networking unconditionally when we get back.
Are you having trouble with your VoIP phone system? Smart Office USA to the rescue. We're a local company here in DFW with real people, certified technicians, and we even come to your office to help you. Smart Office USA, representing the #1 VoIP phone system on the planet. And we are right here in DFW, ready to help you. Call us 214-272-0921 or go to www.smartofficeusa.com.
Okay, so most people don't know who the person is behind the voice that opens up Network Today every week.
That's right.
You know now.
I know now.
That's right. The man behind the voice, our special guest on Networking Unconditional, Mr. Mike Reagan.
Yay!
Woo!
Thanks, Sheryl.
This is going to be fun because it's a great story, Rob, that I don't know if I told this story about networking. Like, this is Mike and I, our story is networking, right? So it was getting introduced, me going to one of your benefit discussions. And then we're like, hey, let's have a one-on-one. And then it's like, hey, you do voiceovers too?
Right.
And then it was like, hey, we're best buds. And that had to have been 2015.
A long
somewhere
time ago.
somewhere around there. Yeah. So quite some time ago. 8 years if I counted right.
I mean, that's what's so awesome about networking, though. When you do meet people and then you find out what you have in common. Yeah. I mean, it just makes the story stronger.
Yeah, it is.
Sure.
And it bonds the friendship. You go from networking to friendship, building the relationship, which we're talking about all the time. So
yes,
that's a great story.
Yes. So I'm going to give you a little background on Mike. He's very multifaceted and just one of the nicest guys, truly, that you'll ever meet. So first, before I get into your bio, it's Mike or Michael? Which do you
Mike's
prefer?
fine. Mike's fine.
But you'll see Michael.
Yeah.
So when you go to LinkedIn, you'll see Michael.
Well, my mother always, when she was mad at me, she would say, Michael.
Of course.
So I knew everything was okay when she called Mike.
That's good. That's good. So she must have written your LinkedIn bio because it's Michael.
Yeah, right.
And Reagan, as in Ronald.
That's correct.
Reagan.
That's right.
And so I'm gonna go back to, let's see how long ago it was when you were with the one that became the Oasis, the PEO firm that we met at.
Staff One.
Yeah, Staff One.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we first met.
Yep.
And then you became a group leader over at New Era Life Insurance. This is what I'm looking at your. Wasn't there something else in there? Wasn't there something else in there in that realm between that and what you're doing now?
Well, I spent some time with a third-party administrator.
That's right.
I handled the western part of the U.S. and my counterpart handled the eastern part of the U.S.
That's right.
Then we formed our own company,
which is Benefit Fixes.
Right.
So you all help those who need low-cost access to healthcare programs.
And prescription drugs.
And prescription drugs, specialty of theirs.
Right.
So if you need drugs,
you don't have to meet me on the corner anymore.
That's right.
I'm out in public.
That's right. What I always find fascinating is when we have a discussion about, hey, we want Michael on here. Obviously, people ask me all the time, who is that guy who voices your welcome to Network Today at the Purple Cow Branding Studios? And so we thought, certainly we want to have you on here, but also because we learned to know each other through
Mhm.
networking, which is great. When I pose to you 3 different topics and we start fleshing these things out, it ends up not being the topic that we thought, right? As we had a discussion, it ended up being because you don't go out and do networking groups en masse.
Not really. Yeah.
You develop relationships one-on-one
Mhm.
for a long time.
Right.
And you said a term in there, which is what triggered the title of this episode.
Mm.
And that was you give referrals.
Unconditionally.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Without thought to what you're getting back.
Yeah.
And certainly another term of that is reciprocity. You just came at it from a different angle. And I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, thank you. Unlike a true business relationship, that there should be some kind of give and take,
Right,
and
right.
expecting something in return in a business relationship. I look at networking, yeah, it can be business related, but it's also getting to know the individual
Right.
and what their passion
Right.
is, what they're
Right.
passionate about. And a lot of times that I've found that you really accomplish what you want to accomplish on the business side by getting to know what someone's passion is
Yeah.
and what their interest is.
Mm.
And I try to follow up my connections with giving them meaningful information that's along the lines of what their passion
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So-
Well, hence, which is how we continued our conversation. So if you're listening to this, watching this, and you're like, man, I just not getting out of the relationships or the things, the networking that I'm putting into, right?
Mhm.
You might need to figure out how to have a secondary discussion, because that's what leads to what you're talking about, that
Yeah.
long-term, ongoing discussion point.
Mhm.
And so had we not discovered the voiceover component that we both had in common, where do you think we would have ended up?
Well, we're both Christians,
That's
So,
good. Yes.
yeah.
So both believers. So that was
So,
good.
and
But if
you
it were
know,
just business, if all we did was say, hey, I do this, and I said, I do this, and we say, hey, how can you refer me, and left it at that, where do you think we would have ended up?
well, you have some programs that I have actually taken a part in,
Right.
and so we had some uh, common interests.
Yeah.
So along those lines.
Yeah.
But
Certainly
it
wouldn't have
was
been as,
it was the voiceover. It was the commonality
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
and,
that's right. It wouldn't have been
yeah.
as deep and wide.
Right.
Right.
Not initially. Not
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
And so, Rob,
Well, what I like what Mike said is, networking unconditionally. It brought back where he even used the phrase "give and take,"
Mhm.
which by Adam Grant, where Adam Grant, his whole success is based on just being a go-giver.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's kind of the next book by Bob Berg, The Go-Giver, of giving value without expecting anything in return.
Right,
And then
right.
my other favorite is Never Eat Alone. So these 3 books really hit home when Sheryl said, "Hey, Mike's coming on board. We're going to talk about networking unintentionally." And I had to change my mindset.
Yeah.
Just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I was wanting, I'll give you something,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I want
right,
tit
right.
for tat
Yeah,
kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I was there. And there still is a place for that
Mhm.
when done in the right way.
Yeah,
there
right,
still is a
right.
place. But
Yeah.
I really think my networking really has just boomed because of what you said. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
s-
Yeah, it's in my opinion, you have to first of all like people
Right.
before you do the networking.
that's right.
And if you're somebody who has made the determination that you're never going to really like people, but you want to reach a certain goal with your business, well, hire somebody who likes people.
Good
And let them do
advice.
it.
Good advice.
That is
Because you're never going to get across. If you don't like people, it's going to show.
that's right. Get somebody out there who is
Yeah.
likable, who
Right.
is likable. So I'm going to ask you this question because this is really what the everybody falls into, this obstacle that prevents them, or they say prevents them from going that long-term relationship route, right? The route where I'm just going to give and give and give, and I know that it will come back at me at some point. So they say I'm not making any money at it. Like I
Ah,
have to
yeah.
advance my business. What advice would you give somebody who needs to build their business but is really short-term sighted? Maybe they have to be, versus long-term sighted.
Well, try, I guess try to initiate contact with someone that has some kind of common interest with you, and let it go from there. Because if you're trying to do something, and let's say you have a sales goal, and I've certainly been in that role many times in my life,
Yeah.
and you've got a quota to meet, and you've got a manager who's saying you've got to meet your quota. Well, you've got a lot of pressures that are going to interfere with you trying to build a natural, easygoing relationship.
Right.
However, you just have to persevere and go that route. I mean, there's really no shortcut. If you try to make it a shortcut, then the people you're talking to are going to feel that sense of urgency,
Right.
and they're going to be standoffish.
Right.
My experience yeah, I've had that experience over the years. So, here I'm talking about all this. It's not because I've done a lot of things right, because I've done a lot of things wrong. Yeah,
Yeah. I
You fail
understand that.
forward, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, right. So
Y-
that's my advice.
Persevere. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Perseverance is going to be my word of the week.
Okay.
You just helped me find my word of the week. Thank you, Michael Reagan.
You're
Well,
welcome.
I think too, Mike, is that people put too much emphasis at times as networking as their main number one lead generation tool.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good time that that you got to have two or three different arrows in the quiver there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that way you can relax more and then because that's what I did. So I did other things like through cold calling and
Yeah.
those type
yeah,
of things,
Right.
but gave me a chance then to work my network. So now networking is my number one.
Yeah.
Well,
gen.
cold calling is usually an interruption to somebody's normal way of having their activity. And under the networking side of things, like I use LinkedIn mostly,
Yeah.
it's not an interruption, because if you come in to somebody and you have common interests, that's not an interruption to them. They
Right.
see that as a value.
That's a
Yeah.
great point. And it also, what it also does is networking is not just about the networking groups. It could be LinkedIn, like you
Yeah,
said,
right.
very powerful networking
Mhm.
tool. It also could be another form like trade associations,
Sure.
chambers,
Yeah.
not just the happy hour kind of weekly, groups. So yeah, you've got a lot of
Yeah.
other arrows out there that you can work
Right,
on.
Yeah.
right.
So if you want to know how to network unconditionally, then get to know the unconditional giver guy, which is Michael Reagan with Benefit Fixes. So we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
How do people contact you?
They can go to benefitfixes.com or give me a call at 214-850-1069.
BR 549.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a party line, although we like to have parties.
That's awesome. And you help so many companies with your great services. I just love your
Thanks.
heart. You help on the
Thank you.
business side, the professional side, and the personal side. So as we close this out, a little known fact about yourself that would blow my mind, Michael.
Wow.
Were you going to play? Did you sing? Did you sing on stage?
No,
Okay.
no. Not that I will admit to. Not into karaoke. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Travel someplace exotic?
oh yeah. Philippines. Like the
Okay.
Philippines, except for the heat and humidity.
Okay.
I like the people.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
the Philippines, you're a traveler. So if you
Yeah.
want to travel, you want to know more about the Philippines, yeah, that would be another great conversation point.
I can also tell you where not to go in the
Okay.
Philippines.
All right. All right.
So,
That's good.
okay.
Michael, you're awesome. We just appreciate you. Thank you for being the intro voice to
Oh,
our
you're
show
welcome.
every week, whether
welcome.
you realized it or not. So,
You're welcome. My pleasure.
oh, we just appreciate you, and we will be back. All right, Rob, what did you think of our chat with Michael?
I loved his topic,
Mhm.
networking unconditionally, because that is really what I'm into right now.
Yeah.
It's about what we're trying to do here at Network Today with changing the networking mindset. And, the great thing about this whole thing is that Michael just 2 weeks ago sent me an email out of the blue just saying, hey, Rob, saw this article. thought about you and how it could help you and your team, and boom, zip, he sends it off. I mean, what unconditionally. That's what I like about him. He's real, he's authentic, and I think this really is the number one key to anyone's success in networking.
Yeah, that's right. Because there is that sales mentality, especially with those in sales positions, to want to force feed something and make something happen.
Yeah.
And that's not natural.
Right.
But Michael is who he says he is. And I've always loved that about him. So for me, one of my takeaways in our discussion here was that, the likability factor.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not likable, if you don't like other people, you better find somebody who is likable and can like other people. Like, you go hire him. Hey, wouldn't that be a cool position to have? I'm just going to be your likable doppelganger, right? I'm just going to go. So, but I do think that that's a really key premise behind naturally nurturing
Mm-hmm.
networking relationships.
Yes. No, absolutely. Again, I think, he hit the nail right on the head. Again, is that the word is so powerful, unconditional.
Yeah.
That we as salespeople were so
Yeah.
geared at wanting to get instead of give.
Yeah.
That it's just a great reminder for us.
Yeah, it is. And unconditional is one of those words that can kind of just go way over your head because it's so vast and large, but really you're just not expecting anything back.
Right.
It's without expectation.
Absolutely. I mean, it's, that's one of my favorite books on that, The Go-Giver.
Mhm.
They just, Bob Burke talks about that, to be successful, you've got to give value
Yeah.
to your community and
Yeah.
not expect, and then this is the hardest part, Cheryl, not expect anything in return.
Yeah.
Don't keep score. And
Yeah.
that's a hard point. I'm still trying to get myself there.
Yeah. It's a hard balance. It's a hard balance. You got to make money.
Yes.
But we're here to help you get there faster.
Right.
Through
Yeah.
great people like Michael Reagan or Mike if you want to do the friendly version. So, Mike, thank you. We can't wait to continue the conversation. I'm sure there'll be many more conversations on this very vast,
Yes,
yet hard to tackle topic.
absolutely.
All right. So we'll be back. You're smart. You're watching this. But did you know that 2 out of every 3 Americans will deal with a legal issue this year? Half of those will spend 13 days working on those issues. At Empowered Advantage, we help with the stuff of life. Letter M as in marvelous, poweredadvantage.com. All right, as we wrap this up, land this plane, what's your number one thing for you that you have to work on to be unconditional in your networking? Is there anything?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, I think because with the, many years I've been networking, I've had the wrong mindset for so many years now. So this is something I really do have to intentionally work on of, networking, where it's, where I'm thinking about the other people first.
Right.
I'm so used to diving in there and telling them about me and all that, this last 2 years has been a big eye opener. And Mike just really, again, he just reinforced it, which we need, right?
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
to keep on learning. You need to be reinforced. And so yeah, it was the timing's perfect. First, near the first of the year
Yeah.
where we're resetting. And so yeah, it was great information.
And he gave me my word of the week, perseverance.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Well, and for me, I think unconditional is because I have a whole lifetime of sales training,
Mm-hmm.
a whole lifetime. And some things just really stick with you and you can't. I'm trying to pry it out of my soul, but I can't. Something really stuck with me about somebody and it's probably good on some levels, but in regards to networking, it's not as good. You have to pay attention to it, be conscious, but this is it. That's if they don't get referrals from people that they're referring to. So if they give, I don't remember what their benchmark was, 2 or 3 referrals. So they'll give 2 or 3 referrals to somebody. And if they don't get back, they're off their list.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hey, I can relate to that.
And me too. And so when I heard that, and I was pretty new into networking like we do it now, I thought, well, that's a pretty good benchmark. Like that's a pretty good barometer. And I'll just kind of kick them off my list. But the downside is that sometimes the season for them isn't the same season for you.
Right.
So there are people that I've just had to, I guess, remove off of my top 10.
Yeah.
Right. They move from an A+ person to maybe a D- or
Right.
something.
Right.
But I don't remove them completely because you never know.
Yeah. You keep them on the Christmas card list.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you don't let them completely go. Yeah, I think, I'm in the same boat where, again, because we meet so many people, we can't take care of everybody, but from an unconditional point of view, and again, it's not always about getting leads. So
Yeah.
many, it's all,
Yeah.
it's about who do they know?
Yeah.
What value in other areas they can bring to me. So
Yeah.
again, that's where you got to open up the mind here a little bit by saying it's not all about leads.
That's right. Well, and think about what Michael did. So I'm calling you Michael, even though that's what your mom called you when she was mad at you. So I'm sorry, Mike. So Mike, think about what he did a couple of weeks ago for both of us separately, right? And then what he said when he left. So a couple of weeks ago, he emails us a link that would be just discovery items, right? YouTube videos, books to read, or whatever, something that's related to what he felt might be good value information for us.
Right.
Then today, while he's leaving after being our guest, and we're saying our goodbyes, and he says, "But who can I send your way?" And again, not necessarily referral,
Right.
but we're talking about, hey, is there another guest that would be high profile, or somebody on a topic or a subject that we haven't touched on yet? And that's just the beauty of having a heart that gives to networking unconditionally.
Yeah, and that what happens too, I find, Cheryl, is that people, because they don't have a referral, they sort of lock themselves down, shut themselves up. But they got to realize that, again, it's not just about the referral.
Yeah.
It's exactly what Mike did. He sent us both a link to some great information.
Yeah.
Then he asked how we could help us. So, guys, I really want to emphasize the fact that you just don't have to bring a lead to somebody all the time.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one little thing. This is just a little trick as we wrap this up, as we land the plane. And I started this a couple of years ago, and somebody brought it to my attention that it was really meaningful to them. I don't know if it was during the January kind of reset. Our church has a fast, like a week where we all get together every night and we really get ourselves recentered. Well, at that point, I just felt impressed to, when I think about somebody, text them immediately. No rope on that chain, right? So there was it was just, hey, I'm just thinking about you. You crossed my mind more than once. I just wanted to say hello, see how you're doing. Maybe we can catch up and visit sometimes.
Yeah.
And that can, just things like that, it takes me 5 seconds at best, and I'm done.
Yeah.
And I did something, and that has been so meaningful for some people. And not life-changing, but it's just those little drip things that help you stand out.
Absolutely.
And I'd say most of those people have continued to be really good friends of mine.
Great point. Great point.
So there we go. Doesn't have to be like overwhelming. It doesn't have to be, it's that unconditional. I'm just going to give without the thought of getting back.
Yeah.
So our action items for today, you got some good ones there.
Okay, again, networking unconditionally. What do we have? To me, that's the number one success story of networking. You don't want to have to, the give and take thing.
Yeah.
So we've got to change our mindset.
Yeah.
And boy, that's number one for me. We've got to learn to be the go-giver.
Yeah.
Number two, guys, it's not about you. It's the people, the person that you're talking to. How can you bring value to them?
Yes.
Talking about them. Number three is, Keith Frazari wrote the book Never Eat Alone, probably one of my favorite all-time networking books. And he says the number one key to successful networking is be generous, be intentional, be generous.
Yes.
So
yes.
3 good points there today.
Yeah, they are. And if you can always remember, I love that number 2. If you can always remember that it's not about you, it's about them, that they're more important than what you have on your mind or what you want to spew out, then life just gets so much better.
Oh, yeah. Again, and once you keep on your journey, Cheryl, I mean, when I think about networking now, it's all about what can I do for my community?
Yeah.
It's not about getting leads or referrals.
Yeah.
It's what can I do? And I get so excited of how I can help people.
I know. And you're so good at it. You're so good at
Well,
it.
thank you.
You really show that into your team, and your team is like that too because of that. And so we're gonna say that this is it, but not the end, because we've got some really important news for you that's going to be announced here in
Yes.
these next couple of weeks.
Yes. Very exciting.
And in the meantime, we want to hear from you because it's not about us, it's about you. And we want to hear from you on what your thoughts are, topics we're not touching on, things you feel that we need to dive a little deeper on,
Right.
perhaps, or maybe it's just a really good networking success story. So info@networktodaydfw.com, info@networktodaydfw.com. And we love reading your news stories and your
Yeah.
reports and things like that. So there we go.
Here we go.
To networking unconditionally, my friend.
All right. You have a great week, Cheryl.
You too. Network Today, where we take you from meeting people
People.
to
Making money.
faster. And we will see you next week.
This has been a Purple Cow production.